Meow, welcome to the PodKat. Coming to you from my pod in Burbank, California. I'm Kat. I wanted to have a really fun episode today, kind of more escapist and think of happier times. And what is happier than the happiest place on earth, Disney? So my guest today is my wife and I's best Disney buddy, Mary.
Hello.
Hello. Hey girl, how are you hanging in there?
We're getting through day by day.
Yeah, same. You want to give us a quick intro of kind of where you're coming to us from and what your life has been like the last month?
Yeah, definitely. So I live in Berthoud, Colorado, which is a suburb of Boulder. I currently work at a chemical manufacturer in quality, but my background is in molecular, cellular, and developmental biology, and that's a mouthful way of saying like microbiology. This past month, so the chemical manufacturer I work for is considered essential, so I have not stopped working or anything. Nothing's changed too much other than the fact that I have been remote working. My husband also works for the same company, so he's also essential, but his job really is a lot more hands-on, so he's been having to go in. So, I'm quarantined, he's not really, but it is just work and back. Yeah.
That's the same situation as me, where like I'm quarantined, but my spouse is not, although I'm not working from home and you are, so you're probably being more productive. But
some days, it depends.
There's this meme that I look at every morning that brings me hope, and it's this like angry frog, and he's like looking in the mirror and he's like, I am doing my best, and then he's like putting on his little frog makeup and he's like, I look my best, and then he's at his keyboard and he's like, I'm working very hard, and then he's coloring a picture and he's like, I am expressing myself, but the whole time he just looks angry. I'm like, I love that. It's like you could be doing things that bring joy and are productive and getting you through, but you can still be an angry goblin about it. And,
yes, definitely.
Angry
goblin is great. When I first started working from home, I read all these tips and it was like, get dressed every morning, go through your normal routine. And that lasted for about 10 minutes. And then I went back and put on PJs. So it's pretty great rolling out of bed at 7:29 to clock in at 7:30. But
I feel like pushing myself too hard to be like, you should still put on makeup and you should still do all this stuff. Like if you need those things to feel more in your routine, that's good, but I guess those are things that are normally not part of my routine. So I felt like I was over pushing myself to like work out an hour each day, and I'm gonna still stretch and work out when I want to, but I do think it is important right now to listen to what you need and not follow a specific routine. But sometimes honestly just acknowledging that I'm being a goblin ends up making me kind of laugh and be happy about stuff, because I don't know, I feel like if you're like gotta be happy, I don't know, it ends up feeling like some dystopian Doctor Who episode.
For sure.
Well, I'm glad that you are able to have income still and that you're employed, but it's a bummer when your spouse has to be essential and physically continue to work. So I feel you there. Well, I guess we both have had a lot of time to think about Disney as we've been in our time off. I know the other night my wife and I could not sleep, and so I just ended up putting on the Disney soundtrack of the parks, and so we were like laying in bed just listening to Pirates song and Tiki Room and that kind of stuff. And
oh yes, that's awesome.
It was very comforting. Okay, so would you like to tell us a little bit about your background with Disney?
Sure. So growing up, we visited quite a bit. I grew up in Colorado, but we were very blessed to be able to travel a lot. So, I spent many spring breaks as a kid, either at Walt Disney World or at Disneyland. I've never been to any of the overseas Disney parks. That is definitely on the bucket list, though. We were supposed to tentatively go to Japan this summer, right after the Olympics, and we were going to try to hit Tokyo Disneyland and all that, but now with, Armageddon, have not made that trip happen, so that's unfortunate, but in the future, definitely. Otherwise, right now, as an adult, still loving Disney, still live in Colorado for now, so can't go as much as I would like, but we make sure to go at least once a year. to Disneyland. We usually go right around Halloween every year. Most years we try to get in a couple other visits. Like last year we did the Halloween trip. We did a trip in February, and then we spent last Christmas at Walt Disney World. So that was, three in a year. Haven't been back since our last trip in November, which was actually my honeymoon. We honeymooned at Disney. That's how obsessed we are. So yeah, we try to make it all the time. We've definitely done, I like to think that we've done it all, but you never know. Every now and then, so I get surprised by something. So
we still have those international parks we have to hit up.
Definitely.
We did your bachelorette party at Disney too.
Oh, that's true. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, just so much Disney. I
can't even
keep track of it all.
I know, all the best of times. The first time you and my wife ever met was at Disney.
It was. We bonded over that for sure, as well as our love of video games. I know that she's been obsessed with Animal Crossing. I, too, have been playing quite a bit of Animal Crossing, so we've bonded over Disney and video games, for sure.
I sent her a picture yesterday, and she was like, I'm feeling real called out, and it was like, your real home right now, and it was just like a trashy hoarder heap, and then it was like your Animal Crossing home, and it's like the perfectly manicured apartment looking so zen and feng shuied, and she was like, yeah.
So real.
Actually, I've heard a lot about the psychology of like the importance of things like Animal Crossing right now, where like I personally kind of want to get my real home in order a little bit. Like if I have clutter in my home, it makes me mentally feel cluttered, but I know a lot of people like the process of cleaning through something even virtually and like setting up your town or your island and putting everything together can be very like comforting mentally.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people process stress in different ways, and some people it's like, hey, let's do this super adorable little game, and I'm going to go pick fruit, and I'm going to fish. And then, there's also me who, on the same day as Animal Crossing came out, the video game Doom Eternal came out, which, you literally go to hell and kill demons with a ton of guns and flamethrowers and stuff like that. So, both stress relieving in their own way. Been enjoying both of those, but yeah.
We used to play so much Diablo 2 when I was a kid, and it felt very much like I'm slaying Satan. What could be more important?
Exactly.
I didn't really play too many of the cutesy fun games, although I guess I was really into Neopets, but yeah, I was into like Duke Nukem and Quake and Half-Life. But okay, so my Disney love began since before I could remember, I guess, like my family trips. I was born in Texas, lived in Virginia for a little while. Even when we lived there, my family would travel to Disney World. And then we moved to Disney World, aka Florida, when I was 8 and had season passes and were homeschooled. So pretty much end of story. we grew up there. And when you homeschool, there's actually a lot you can do specifically with Epcot. It's educational. Like when Millennium Village was a thing in 1999, they had like this small section of Epcot where they had people from countries that weren't represented in the main World Showcase. And we would go talk to them and ask them about their country and their language. And we'd kind of do like little interviews with people for school projects. And then we also would take like our family photos with the different Santas around the World Showcase. And then my first Disneyland trip was, I moved out to California in 2014. And then in 2015, I had first started dating my wife, Kim, and you were coming in town and we all went to Disneyland together. So that was my first Disneyland experience. And then we'd go once a year when you would come every November, October. Yeah. And then we finally ended up getting season passes with our honeymoon fund money from our wedding. So my wife and I go all the time. We love it. Big fans. So Mary and I have made a list of top 10 favorite rides, but we're going to limit it just to Disneyland, California, and California Adventure, because when you add in all the other parks, it gets to be too much. So we're going to go down the list, taking turns. We'll start with number 10, working our way up to our favorite. And so, disclaimer is that these are just our personal favorites. Like if I had one day at Disney, these are the ones I would want to hit up that I just think are the most fun and essential. But I also wanted to mention just that I'll go through this as I like hit my list a little bit, but I know there are some problematic parts of Disney as far as racism and things. I know people have problems with specific rides, so I don't want to totally forget to point out things like I know certain rides have controversial histories and such. So, but we want to keep it lighthearted and fun and just talk about our experience with the rides and what we love about that. So, you want to start with your number 10?
Yeah. So, just a disclaimer on my list, I definitely am a big fan of the thrill rides, so it's pretty heavy on that. But so my number 10 is Space Mountain, which I know that's a lot of people's number 1, but it just hit number 10 for me. The caveat, I will also say, is that if it's set up as Hyperspace Mountain, the Star Wars overlay, it does go up the list. I like Hyperspace Mountain quite a bit more than normal Space Mountain.
Yeah, I was going to say I would guess that your list is going to have more of the mountains and the thrill rides than mine does. Space Mountain is Kim's favorite.
Yeah.
She loves that one. Wait, okay, before we go, I want to guess what I think your number 1 is, and you can guess mine. But don't say what your number 1 is unless I guess it. Okay, now I have to think about this. I hadn't even thought. You want to guess mine?
Yeah, I think it's the Tiki Room.
Okay. What do I think your number 1 is? I'm going to say Thunder Mountain. Okay. So we'll come back to that. Okay, so my number 10 on my list is Roger Rabbit's Toon Spin. And
yeah.
This ride is in Toontown at Disneyland. And I had a hard time picking between like Little Mermaid, Alice in Wonderland. Those are all dark rides that I hadn't done before growing up at Disney World. And Toon Spin was on that list. And the reason that Toon Spin made my list is that I love that Toon Spin is like interactive. Like it's really, so you're on this, it's like a dark ride, which means it's not really a roller coaster. Kids can ride it, but it's like you're going through the movie. But you are one person, it's like you're on the teacups where you spin from the middle and the whole car that you're driving through will spin around. So I love that aspect of it because it's different every time you ride it. Yeah. The thing I don't like about this is it's a lot of work to spin it. Kim is the most wonderful wife ever, and she spins it for me. And so for me, it's always a really good time. But I could see where this would be a frustrating ride if you do not want to have to spin it yourself. But I was not familiar with it at all. And then we kind of were like, oh, we've never done this one. Let's check it out. Don't ever just try to walk on it because the line is unbelievable because it's kind of one of the only rides in Toontown for kids. But if you fast pass it, you can always literally just walk right on it. And you can always get a fast pass for right now because no one thinks to fast pass it.
Yeah, my number 9 is pretty similar. It's Mad Tea Party. So it's also a spinny one. It's such a classic. I love that. I love the music. I love the lanterns when they light up at night. Like, definitely ride it at night if you're going. It's super magical. I also have a very lovely husband who will spin it for me, so I like the lack of work there, and he's really good. Like, it's got to the point where, like, I don't get, like, spinny sick at all. Like, I love it, but he's just like, I can't keep doing it. Like, it goes that fast. So, such a pleasure. And yeah, there's usually not a big long wait because, it's just a spin ride. Like, there's a lot of that everywhere, but, like Disney does, they always kind of step it up a notch for everything. And yeah, the lanterns, the lights, the music, just so adorable. So definitely one of the faves.
I love spouses that make our ride experiences possible. And
yes, definitely.
So Kim and I are watching the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, and they go through have you seen it?
No, it's on my to watch list because I've heard great things about it, but I have not seen it myself.
We watched the first episode. They're about an hour long. I think there's 6 or 8 episodes, and I love it because I actually didn't know a lot of the history. Like the history of getting the park started was way harder than I had understood. So that was really cool. But they talk about how the teacups were one of the first rides they put in, and they actually used to be like, you know, where King Arthur's that carousel is in the middle.
Yeah.
It was behind that, like where Dumbo is.
Oh, okay.
Because I was looking at it in the footage on the episode, and I was like, why is it next to Mr. Toad? Because now it's around the corner between Storybook and Alice. So, but yeah.
Wow, they just picked it all up and moved it. That's crazy.
Moved it on over. I love teacups. My mom calls them the whirl and hurl. But it did not make my list because I like looking at it better than actually riding it.
That's fair. That's fair. It is, like I said, it's so cute. That's why I love it so much.
It is so cute. Such a Disney essential. It's one of those ones where, like, I feel like you have to take a picture if nothing else. Like, just get in the teacup. So my number 9, I wanted to put the Monsters ride over at California Adventure, but I ended up putting Winnie the Pooh because all the time when people are like, what's your favorite Disney ride? I'm always like, you have to do Winnie the Pooh.
Lumps and woozles.
Lumps and woozles. There's never a line, which I think is what makes it so wonderful to me. Who doesn't love Peter Pan, Snow White, and those small dark rides? But the lines, I'm not waiting an hour and a half to do a 30-second ride.
Right.
So I love that Winnie the Pooh never has more than a 5-minute wait. If there's a 10-minute wait, I'm always like, what is this? Like, outraged. But I think it's really charming, and I love the very first room when it's like the blustery day, and they're like, Happy Wednesday. It just kills me. So I'd say Winnie the Pooh is adorable. Beautiful. Okay, so you're number 8.
So my number 8 might be a little controversial, but it's Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters, not Toy Story Midway Mania. So they're pretty similar. They're at different parks. They're both Toy Story. They're both kind of shooty video game type of rides. But I really like Astro Blasters better than Midway Mania.
Do you really?
I do. Mania's like just always such a long wait. And I don't know, I seem to have bad luck with it. Like almost every time I try to ride it, like something goes wrong and we stop and we're sitting there for a while and like, I don't know, it's just kind of a bummer. Plus, like, I don't know, I kick a lot of butt at Astro Blasters, so I'm probably a little bit biased there. I think it's so much fun. I will say that the Disneyland version of Astro Blasters is a lot better than Disney World. So people are listening to this and like, what? That's terrible. It might be because the Disneyland one is better, I think. It's also great because there's not usually a line for it, especially like at the end of the day. Like you can just like walk on over and over and over like at night.
Yeah, the last 2 hours the park is open, you can always just walk straight on that one.
So it's fun to like work on your high score just over and over at the end of the day. So yeah.
You can also fast pass that one, but I think you're right. It's worth it to wait till after dinner when there's no line.
Yeah.
And what I like about the one at Disney World, though, is if you do the People Mover that goes through Tomorrowland, you get to look into the ride. And I always think that's kind of cute, so I miss that at Disneyland.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
That's one of my mom's favorite rides is the Astro Blaster. She's never been to Disneyland, but at Disney World, she really likes that. She doesn't like roller coasters and stuff, so for her to have one that's like a little more exciting than the People Mover, she's a big fan of. So
Sure.
So actually, my number 8 is my mom's favorite ride. This is not as high on my list, but I'm putting it up there just because my mom loves it so much, and that's the ride from 1979, Thunder Mountain.
Yeah.
I like Thunder Mountain, but I think my reason I don't have a lot of the thrill rides on here is if I want a thrill ride, I go to, Six Flags or Knott's Berry Farm, I love roller coasters. I could spend all day on roller coasters. But I think that Disney for me is less about those ones, like the thrill rides, as it is the nostalgia, the vintage rides and stuff like that. But Thunder Mountain is such a fun time, and I feel like once I'm on Thunder Mountain, I always am having a better time than I expected to. Like, it always just takes my breath away, and I love passing the goat with the dynamite. Like, there's so many cute details on it. And what I like about Thunder Mountain is because it's an outdoor experience, it's different during the night and day. So I usually don't like to ride it like in the heat of the afternoon, even though that's kind of the theme of it, is kind of deserty. But if you ride it like right at sunset, it's so beautiful. The most magical thing is if you're riding it as the fireworks show is going on. Oh my gosh, you get such good views. And before the Galaxy's Edge Star Wars opened, if you rode Thunder Mountain, you got the best view of into the construction of over there. And so I felt like it was like a sneak peek at what was happening. So
yeah. My number 7 is the Jungle Cruise. So this is not so much a thrill ride. No, puns are always thrilling. But it's just so adorable. The animatronics are definitely something from, who knows, the 1910s, not actually, but it's very dated in certain aspects. But what really sells it is your tour guide. It's just always so funny. It's always one that we make sure to get on, no matter what. The jokes are just always hilarious. It's always fun. It's especially nice when it's, the middle of summer and it's pretty hot, because it's a nice way to just like kind of sit down, and it's on the water, so it's a little cooler. So yeah, definitely high up there.
Jungle Cruise is my number 6. So I'll hop ahead and talk about why I like that one. It's my wife's second favorite ride. She likes Space Mountain first, but yeah, she loves Jungle Cruise. I love the differences in the Disneyland and Disney World Jungle Cruise. Like the Disney World Jungle Cruise goes inside, so I was kind of surprised that this one didn't. But what's really cool, we were learning in the Imagineering story about how Jungle Cruise is one of the very first rides that Disney, like in the very first sketch they ever did of Disneyland, Jungle Cruise is on there, so that was always part of Walt's vision. But you're right, the puns are excellent, and what I love about Jungle Cruise is it's different every time you ride it, because your skipper has different jokes. I really enjoy that. I also love the like consistent jokes that they do from park to park, like the backside of water, that one's always when you go behind the waterfall. So there are certain jokes that like are coming and you look forward to, but I like when I hear a new joke that I hadn't heard before. So definitely. I would say the only thing that bothers me about Jungle Cruise is there's a part of the safari where people are trying to get away from the rhinos, and it's 4 black men trying to get away from the rhino, and then the white guy's like at the very top of the pole, and I'm kind of like, that's a problem.
It's dated.
But I get really mad when you get on the ride and people pull out their phones and just like don't look at the ride. Like, I think because it's a slower ride, people think it's time to like check their Facebook, and I'm like, you're missing the experience. But yeah, Jungle Cruise is a good time. So my number 7, to go with your number 7, was originally premiered in the 1964 World Fair, and Disney got a different company to like build it because it was for the World's Fair, and then it moved to Disneyland in 1966, and that's Small World, which I also acknowledge people have problems with for the depictions of different parts of the world, but I love the costumes. My mom and I used to ride Disney World, Small World, and just like love the costumes. My mom had like a disposable camera that we took through the ride one time, and she took pictures of the costumes she liked for potential costume for Halloween ideas for me. What I also love, on the description on the website, it says, as you go through the Small World, frolicking in the spirit of international unity. And I just love that. Yes. It's also apparently, according to Time.com, the most publicly performed song anywhere.
That's surprising. That's a good fact. I like that. That's good.
I would have thought Happy Birthday would be, but I don't know. Wow. Maybe it's the most performed song that they can track. But anyways, Hi, me from the future editing. I think maybe they meant it was the most performed song because every day it's performed at Disney. Duh. I don't know. But, I mean, Pirates also every day is played at Disney, and so is the Tiki Room, but maybe the Small World plays more often. Not sure, but that might be it. One thing I really love about the Small World at Disneyland, and Small World was not previously high on my list. Like, I thought it was cute when I was a kid, but it was kind of one of the more boring ones. You're like, I can't hear this song again. But the reason I like it as an adult, I love that they added in the Disney characters. I normally don't like when they mess with any ride. Like, I don't like a lot of the updates they do to rides. But I think that they did it so well where like when you are going through the Asia part of the world, they have like Mulan and they've added in Alice in Wonderland I think she's in England, right? And like I just think it's so well done that they didn't try to make them look like the Disney characters. They made them look like Small World characters wearing the outfits of the different princesses. So I loved that surprise. I thought that was well done. I also, like, one of my very favorite things is riding it at Christmas time when they update it for the holiday season and seeing all the ways that people celebrate the December holidays around the world is so, so heartwarming. It just feels like Christmas morning to me. So
yeah, I was going to mention that. Like I like Small World, but it's kind of sad because we visit every year in November. I don't think I've ridden it in like probably 5 years because it's always closed down to change over to Christmas. So, I missed it on our last February trip. I missed it on our September trip. So yeah, I just need to get out here when it's actually open and go to it again because it's been quite a while since I've ridden it.
Yeah, they update Haunted Mansion, but at least I think they change it over like in September.
Yeah, it's earlier. It's like already Christmas when I'm there in November.
So they just keep it up for October, November, December, and parts of January, and then they switch it back. But I think Small World, they only do, you're right, at the end of November. I like that it's like a 15-minute ride. Like you're getting your time spent in line worth of entertainment. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever had it like break down because you're constantly the boat is moving. It's not like it's a track where you get held back. So I like that about it. Well, I already said my number 6 was Jungle Cruise. So do you want to say your number 6?
My number 6 is Big Thunder. So we've already kind of talked about this as well. But yeah, no, I love Big Thunder, especially for the theming. If you didn't know, you don't really get this in the line at Disneyland, but you really do at Disney World, I feel like. Maybe not. Maybe really is too strong here. But the story behind Big Thunder is that it's haunted. It's actually a haunted railroad, which I don't think a lot of people get. But yeah, the story is back in the day, there was a big mine explosion, which is, why you see the goat with the dynamite in its hand. And at the end, right before the last drop, it's like, oh gosh, all these, the fuses all light up and you hear the big explosion and then you fall down. Like that's supposed to be reminiscent of the explosion. So I don't know, kind of fun. A lot of people don't realize that it's kind of a little bit of a spooky thing because it is the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Another cute thing about Thunder Mountain is that you did Thunder Mountain for Dapper Day last year, and you did it so well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, super fun. Dapper Day last year, the four of us, Kat, Kim, my husband Justin, and I dressed up as the various mountains. And yes, I was Big Thunder. I looked like an old-timey railroad person, or at least that was the idea. And I had a little goat with a dynamite stick. It was adorable.
I was Splash Mountain, but that is not on my list of favorite rides.
Also not mine. I don't like water rides with drops. I don't know. Something about being in the boat and dropping, can't do it. Terrifies me.
I don't know if it's just because I was a kid or because you got less wet, but I always liked it at Disney World. Like at Magic Kingdom, we used to ride it a lot, even in the winter. But now, it has to be like the hottest July day for me to want to ride Splash Mountain at Disneyland.
I don't know. I'd rather ride any of the other water rides. Like, it's not so much that it's a water ride. It's just, like, the idea of falling while also floating. Nope. Stuff and nightmares.
Yeah, you just get soaked. I've had, like, bad day. The whole rest of the day just been, like, dripping. Well, I already said my number 6. So do you want to say your number 5?
Yeah, my number 5 is the last of the 4 mountains, the Matterhorn. So this is my favorite of the main mountains, which I know it's not your favorite of almost anything, but I love it. I have a lot of feelings about it. It's not at Walt Disney World, so if you've only ever been to Disney World, make the trip out to Disneyland and ride it at least once. There's 2 unique tracks, so that's pretty cool. I know one of the reasons why you don't really like it, Kat, is because it's really jarring, which is true. can sometimes be painful depending on which like seat you get in. If you're like at the end, if you're a taller person, you get really cramped in there. That's why my husband doesn't love it. He's always just like, oh, my legs, my knees, my everything, But you should still ride it at least once. The right track is slightly less jarring. You can pass past that. That's the one you get on if you fast pass. So that's what I like to do. But the Yeti is adorable, terrifying.
Yeah, I want to like it so much more than I do. Like, it makes me so sad I don't like it because the history of it is really awesome. Like, there's a lot about it that's so important. And I think that's why it makes me extra sad, is because if it were just, like the Dumbo ride or something small that you don't wait that long or something, I'd be like, oh, well, it was kind of disappointing. But because it's so amazing, because they don't have it at the other parks, you're like, oh, wow, a new roller coaster. Like, I get so excited. And I can ride just about any, even when I was like little, I would get on any roller coaster I was big enough for. I love carnival rides, like, mess me up. I love it. But Matterhorn, it's like I got to the point where I was like, my body is going to break. Like, it scares me so bad, the way that it hurts. I think you're right what Justin was saying. Like, my knees hit the front, and it just, like, really shakes you. So that makes it hard for me to want to brave. But I do love the look of it. The Imagineering story that we're watching on Disney Plus talks about when Walt was like, yeah, I'm going to come up with this mountain that's going to be like an alpine snow adventure. And I want the gondolas to go through the middle of it. And I want it to have 2 separate tracks. And like, the engineer was telling the story, and he was like, I just looked at Walt and was like, sure, buddy, I'll look into it. Like, it's never going to happen. And it's magical. They obviously don't have the gondolas anymore go through it, because the gondolas are no more, but it's beautiful. I think it adds a lot to the park, and I like that it's there. I like to look at it, and there's a lot of cool secret, like there's a basketball court inside the middle, and they talk about that in the Imagineering story, that it's not really a whole court, it's just a basketball hoop, but still, if you work at the park, you can go up there and play. So I think it's really beautiful, but it just makes me sad that I can't ride it.
On Dapper Day, Justin went as Matterhorn Mountain. He wore lederhosen in like 100-degree weather, so good on him. There was a lot of sweat involved, but it was adorable. He had a little stuffed Yeti and a very cute hat, so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, he did such a good job with that. Okay, so top 5 for me. Number 5, I was really hesitant to put this because the Disney purist in me is like, only the original rides. But if I had to say like my best day at Disney, I love Guardians Mission Breakout. And so like I was hesitant to put that on my list because I was like, it's not an original ride. But I was like, you know what? I don't care. It's so much fun. It's such a good time. Like, every time we go to Disney, Kim and I, it's the first ride we fast pass. Like, when we walk through the door, we immediately get our fast pass, and we try to ride it once, if not twice, during the day. So this, for anyone who doesn't know, is at California Adventure, and it's one of those drop rides, which a drop ride is my favorite kind of thrill ride, like a free fall drop. Like, I love those Viking boats. That drop sensation for me is so thrilling, but I can never get people to go on them. Like, especially Knott's Berry Farm has one, the Supreme Scream, where it just goes, billion feet in the air and drops. And people don't want to ride those, but they'll ride the Guardians because it's not like you're looking out at everything, so it's less scary. I like the theming of it. I think it's cute. The queue is cute, like going into it. It does make me sad, though, that they replaced the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror with this Guardians ride, because I really like the Tower of Terror. I think it still is at the former MGM, now Hollywood Studios.
It is, yeah.
I want Kim to experience it because she's never gotten to ride it. I thought about putting Goofy Sky School and Silly Symphony Swings on my list because they're just fun. I love those kinds of rides. But I don't think the theming is that incredible on them, and you can ride those kinds of rides at most amusement parks. So as far as just a thrill, I decided that Guardians could make my list and could be top 5, because the best day at Disney always starts with grabbing that fast pass. And
So that one is my number 2. To spoiler alert.
I wondered if it was going to be your number 1, but then I thought every time we go to ride it, Mary's always like, I regret this, like right before we get on. You're always like, no!
Yes, that's half the fun. I drop rides. I have a mixed experience with drop rides. I love them, except I also hate them. Guardians is, like you were saying, one of the exceptions for me where I love to ride it. The ones that are just like your feet are dangling and you're outdoors, like at Six Flags, like at, Knott's Berry Farms, those type of things, they're a little bit too much for me. But Guardians, your feet are at least on the ground, you're belted in, I guess it could be better with like over the shoulder stuff, but that's kind of the fun, is that you lift up a little bit off the seat, right? We went to Disney World last Christmas, like I was saying, and it is still the Hollywood Tower of Terror. And I tell you what, like you were saying, I like psych myself out a lot. Like every time in the queue for Guardians, I'm just like, why am I doing this? I'm like sweating. I'm freaking out. Like, why do I always do this to myself? And then I love it after I write it, of course. Imagine that like times a million for Hollywood Tower of Terror, because the queue is creepy AF. Like it's all like cobwebs and like it looks like it's gonna break down any second, and like I don't know, that makes it even scarier for me. And then I wrote it, and it was like, wow, this is nothing compared to Guardians. Like, the upgrade from Hollywood Tower of Terror to Guardians was really good. Like, it's much more thrilling now, with the whole, you go up and you come down, of course, but the whole time, like, the whole cart, I guess, I don't know what you'd call it, it's kind of, like, wiggling, like, you never know exactly when you're going to drop, and that just makes it so much more fun.
The gantry lift.
That's right. Thank you. The lift. Music is just so great. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's another thing. Each there's like 8 different gantry lifts that you could get on. They each have a different song that they play based on the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack, so you don't know which song you're going to get, which makes it fun. So if you've never been on these rides, imagine being a little kid having to go down to your basement where the radiator is loudly hissing. That's what the Hollywood Tower of Terror Twilight Zone ride is like, that Mary's describing.
Terrifying.
Like, it is
Terrifying.
so scary. And I love Twilight Zone, but I mean, I remember having to hold my parents' hand the whole time I was through the queue. Like, the queue really scared me. And I think if you were like little, you might still kind of be nervous in the Guardians queue, because it's like dark in parts, but it is nothing compared to, I mean, the Twilight Zone one, it was like, I didn't want to sit on the outside of the gantry lift. I wanted to be in the middle, because it was just like freely open, and it was like you were traveling through like space. It was so scary.
Yeah,
and then you didn't know when the drop was coming, and then there was just the one drop. And then Guardians it starts as a drop, and it's just a drop the whole time over and over again.
Yeah, and not just a drop, like, it'll shoot you up and then drop you down. Like, that's almost like half the scariness, is like, my strategy, because, like I said, I struggle with these things. I love them, but I struggle, is like, want to kind of like tense up and hold on and like, hold the railings, or at least I do. But I find it's much more enjoyable if I just like, kind of try to like zen out and calm down. Don't like flex everything, because that's what I tend to want to do, and just like try to be loosey-goosey and go with the drops and with because otherwise when they shoot you up, when you're tense, it just like, scares the bejesus out of me. So be loosey-goosey. Do the opposite of what you want to do, and be loosey-goosey.
Don't reach for the person next to you and clutch their leg.
Oh my goodness. The worst time I ever wrote this. I was with a whole bunch of friends, a whole bunch of guys, and one of them sitting next to me was like really terrified, but like was like, oh no, you're the girl, like don't worry, I'll protect you, that type of thing, And so he's like, yeah, you can have the side rail to hold on to. That's fine. I got this one over here. As soon as we shot up and then dropped down, he rips down and grabs like all over my hand and squeezes my hand half to death, like on accident. Like, he's literally just trying to like hold the bar, but like, oh my gosh, so that was super painful. And then the person on the next to me, I don't know like what they were doing, but their foot was like off the ground until we dropped, and then they like brought it down so hard and landed right on my foot. So it was like pain on my right hand, my left foot is getting crushed. It was just like, oh my gosh, and then I'm dropping and gonna die. So,
and yet it's still your number 2. It's that fun.
2.
Okay, so my number 4 is Toy Story Midway Mania.
Okay.
I also love the Buzz Lightyear one, but I did not get to go to California Adventure for the first few years because we did not buy a park hopper. We only did Disneyland. And y'all would go and tell us a little bit about what was over there because we were like, what's it like? And you would describe the Midway Mania one, and you were like, oh, it's like the Buzz Lightyear one, but even more complex and extra levels. And I was like, what? How? So when we finally did get to go, I just thought it was really a good time, and probably the same logic that you used, which is I'm better at the Midway Mania.
Sure.
Kim is so good at the Buzz Lightyear one. She always wins that one, but I usually win Midway Mania. I feel like Midway Mania, a lot of it I'm losing until the very final bonus round, and then I usually just crush it on that. But Kim does usually pwn noobs on the Buzz Lightyear one. Okay.
So my number 4 is the Indiana Jones Adventure Ride. I really like it. I think the queue is adorable. My husband Justin has a really cute story about, they have all these little rules, like don't step on the triangle tiles while you're going through the queue. And I guess as a little boy, he saw his dad step on one on accident, and he had like a total meltdown where he started crying, like the curse is gonna get us, we're gonna die, all this stuff. And like he had to get sat down by his mom and be like, it's okay, like
the queue's incredible. It's intense. Like even if you're not familiar with the movie, the queue goes through all of the booby traps, and it feels very authentic.
Yeah, that's another thing I was going to say of why I like it so much. It tells such a great story. Like, a lot of the rides are like, oh, yeah, I'm on this railroad. Why am I on this railroad? I don't know. But this, like, Indiana Jones, like, it sets up such a story in the queue with, like, the safety briefings, with, like, everything. It's just so cute. And then the ride itself is so much fun. Like, I would definitely say it's a thrill ride. It's not, a roller coaster, but it is. There's a couple drops, you go pretty fast. You get that wind in your hair, take off your mouse ears for it, that type of thing. But yeah, it's just so adorable and so cute, and I think it really holds to Indiana Jones in general, like the heart of it, but it really brings out that Disney extra.
Indiana Jones was the first ride I rode at Disneyland. Like when we went in 2015, I was like, what is this ride? Because they do not have it anywhere in Florida.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Disney owns Isn't Indiana Jones Universal?
I think so, yeah.
So when they had made it, they owned the licensing at the time, but they don't anymore. But I was like, we have to do this. I don't know anything about it. And I was totally blown away by the queue, like you're saying. The reason I don't have it on my list, even though I really wanted to, is that it breaks down on the daily. Every afternoon it breaks down. Kim and I were saying we hope that if they're doing construction on Disney during the shutdown of the park, which maybe they are not because I'm not sure, but if they do, we were like, I hope they put Indiana Jones on a new operating system because it crashes every day. Not the ride, but the operating system crashes every day. But I've been on it before where it has stopped running and we waited over a half hour in the dark. Oh, no. And that like really soured it for me. Yeah, but if you can fast pass it and if you can get on it while it's actually working, it is a blast. It is a really, really, really fun ride. So I'm always like smiling when I'm on it and it's a good time. But I just wish they would fix it.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
My number 3, did I say my? Yeah. So my number 3 is from 1967, and it's the last ride that was overseen by Walt Disney before he died 3 months before it opened. But it was his like last idea that got put into place, and that is Pirates of the Caribbean. I love Pirates for the music. I love the story it tells. I like that it takes like a whole 15 minutes. I like that you get a little wet, but it's not like Splash Mountain or something.
Sure.
And I just love the animatronic characters. I think are really engaging. I know, again, that there was some problems with there was an auction in the town where they wanted the women to be auctioned, and so in the last few years, Disneyland, I don't know what the other parks have done, but Disneyland changed it to where they're auctioning chickens instead of women, so I know there's been a lot of changes. I don't like that they've added in Jack Sparrow like
Right, yeah.
throughout the whole park, or throughout the whole ride. I hate that. But New Orleans Square is not something that's at Disney World. Pirates is, but not New Orleans Square. And I just love the New Orleans Square area. So Pirates to me is so like, I remember riding it as a kid. I hope it's always there. It's one you ride every time just for the nostalgia. And sometimes there's no lines. I mean, during the day, there's always like a 45 to an hour line, but it does load really fast. And if you go like while Fantasmic is happening or later in the evening, you can like walk straight on it. So
yeah, definitely. No, Pirates is great. It's not on my list. Again, I like the more thrill ones, but it's adorable. I think you're right. I like the New Orleans Square better than I like Pirates. And I like the Blue Bayou restaurant for the atmosphere. I wouldn't really recommend it for the food. It's not that great, especially for the price.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, the Blue Bayou is a restaurant that's in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. So you're like eating while watching people go on their boats past you. So whenever we're on the boats, like going past the people in the Blue Bayou, my wife and I always want to be like, throw us a bread roll. I just like to troll the people. But it's supposed to be one of the nicest restaurants in Disney as far as the atmosphere and the price and everything.
Yeah, it is pricey. But the atmosphere is really cute. You know, you got the little fake fireflies going around, and you can hear the water, and it's all lit up with like lanterns, and it's perpetually dark in there, of course, because it's inside the ride, and so it is romantic. I think the quality is not up to par with the other restaurants you can get at Disney for that price range, especially Disney World. Like it's a whole nother park at Disney World with the fine dining. So
oh my gosh, the Epcot dining is so good. We should do an episode about like favorite Disney snacks. I was gonna say,
please.
I also want to do a least favorite ride episode.
Yeah.
My favorite Disneyland restaurant is in New Orleans Square, and that's Cafe Orleans. I love the Monte Cristo sandwich is delicious, but also it's like a beautiful environment. You're just sitting outside and it feels like you're in a little cafe in New Orleans, and I think it's supposed to be like Cafe Du Monde-esque, right?
Yeah. And you can get that Monte Cristo at the Blue Bayou restaurant too, for like $10 more.
Oh, yeah.
You pay for it at the cafe. So I don't know, just silly.
Sorry, that was your number 3.
I have not said
You've not said 3 yet. Okay, sorry. So I said my 3 was Pirates. What was your number 3?
My 3 is Radiator Springs in California Adventure. So it's a thrill, more thrilling, but still good for little kids. It's not quite a roller coaster. You're like in a car. Obviously, it's cars, and it's just really cute. The queue is fun. It's always such a wait. So like as soon as you get into the park, like if you're not already fast passing something you have never ridden, like you have to fast pass that, and they run out like at noon every day, it seems like. So it's always such a rush to get there. You can rope drop it and have some luck that way if you want to save your fast pass for like Guardians or whatever, but it's such a cute ride. It really, I think, plays great homage to Cars itself. It's nice because it's kind of like half dark ride, half thrill ride. So like the first part of it, you're just kind of like going for a nice cruise in your little car through the mountains, and then you're like getting ready and you're gonna go on a race, and then once the race actually happens, that's when you like really get up to speed and you kind of do like some hills, and it's a lot of fun.
I'd say it's the theming of Autopia with the cuteness of a dark ride with the thrill of Test Track.
Yeah, yep. Definitely.
Yeah, I would definitely take your suggestion and say fast pass that one first, because those fast passes go the fastest of any in Disneyland or California Adventure. And I've seen that queue literally 4 hours. Like I took a photo and I was like, that's the longest queue I've ever seen. So yeah, that queue is crazy, but it is a thrill ride. So you can get teenagers and 20-somethings excited about it, 30-somethings excited about it. But I also think it's appropriate for most kids. I mean, even if you were, like, if I were 7 and I were the height requirement, I would totally be able to ride that. Like, you don't go upside down or something. And I actually think even my mom would like it, and she gets very motion sick, but she loves Test Track. So I think she could do that one. I've thought about when we take her, I'll probably try and get her on that one.
I would describe it as a cuter test track, just in general.
Yeah.
It's nice because it's longer because it does have that like ease into it and everything too. So, but yeah, the queue is just no fun.
No, it's all outdoor, and you definitely have to fast pass it.
There's no shade,
We'll single ride it too, but sometimes you'd be careful those single lines because sometimes they're longer than the actual line. But there's never a time of day where it doesn't have a line. It's not like, oh, wait till the end of the night or something. It's always long.
Yeah.
And so your number 2 was Guardians.
Yes.
My number 2 was your guess for my number 1, which is the Tiki Room.
Not a ride.
I knew you were going to say that. I was like, I need to preface this and say this is going to make Mary furious because it's not a ride, it's an attraction. But the Tiki Room is the greatest of all time. I think it's so freaking adorable. Mary hates it. She's like, this is not a thrill, it's not a ride, it's nothing. It's so charming. So it's from 1963. So it's one of the ones that like Walt actually oversaw. I think when I was a kid at Disney World, I was like, oh, that's cute, whatever. But it's not part of a regular rotation or something unless it was hot. Oh, fun fact. It was the first ride. It was the first attraction anywhere in Disney to have air conditioning because the birds were all animatronic and they would heat up. So they had to keep the area cool. So
that is a fun fact.
Yeah, because a lot of people just use it as an escape for the heat of the afternoon. But therein lies the trap, because once you come in, you realize it is the greatest of all time. It's so cute. You cannot leave. You can push the door at any moment. But what I liked about it is when I came back as an adult to Disneyland, and I was like, oh, let's ride this. Let's sit in this room and watch this animatronic bird show. I like almost cried. Like it made me so happy to hear the music again. And I just think it's so wholesome and heartwarming. And I think what made me so happy about it is that I was growing up in Magic Kingdom during the time when they switched from the Tiki show to the under new management. What's his name? It's Zazu
Iago?
And Iago takes over.
Yeah.
And that, like, the rumors about that are hilarious because it at one point caught on fire and they had to resort back to the old ride. And everyone's like, no, it for sure was intentionally set on fire because it was so bad. Like, I read into it and there's a lot of theories of people being like, yeah, no, that was a mercy killing. It was horrible. Because they did this awful thing where they had Iago come in and be like, stop singing. And then he would anger the gods. And it just was atrocious. So I loved coming back to Disneyland and seeing like, oh, Mr. Toad was when I was a child, but they don't have it anymore at Magic Kingdom. So I loved coming back to Tiki Room and being like, it does exist again. And I think they've gone back to the original Tiki show at Magic Kingdom. I would ask you, but I'm sure you've not ridden it.
No, we did actually last year when we were there. I will report that Iago is still there.
Okay. Does he
It is
make
unfortunate.
them? Does he make them change it? Does he say, like, his whole thing, stop singing, and then the...
I don't remember him saying stop singing, but he does anger the gods, and it's like, there's, like, lightning, and it looks like it's raining, and it's cute, like a light show, I don't remember him, like, stopping it, but, they're not singing the whole time in this. That's kind of like, they, like, do a little bit of singing, and then the host, the human cast member will kind of say some things and Iago will respond, quote unquote. They'll have a conversation.
There's a man who works at the Disneyland park. He's probably been there since they opened. And he is like Mr. Tiki Man. And when he interacts with the birds, it is the best thing ever. And whenever we're there and he's not working, we're like, ugh, I don't even run a ride Tiki Room today. But this guy makes me so happy. I've seen like on Disney, like, Reddit threads and stuff, other people being like, is Tiki Man there today? Because I don't want to go if he's not. Like, this guy, he's incredible. Okay, so you already said your number 2 was Guardians. So, drum roll.
My number 1 is also at California Adventure, and it's the Incredicoaster.
Is it really?
Yeah. I had a debate between Guardians and the Incredicoaster for a while. I did think about, like, jokingly adding Goofy's Sky School as my number 1.
Sky School is crazy fun. It is so good.
It's so much fun and just hilarious because it's like pretty painful for certain reasons, and it just cracks me up every single time I ride it.
It's a dangerous ride.
So we'll leave that for another conversation. But no, so my favorite, Incredicoaster. I think it really benefited from getting that reskin from California Screamin' to Incredicoaster. I really loved The Incredibles. Like I really loved that movie, and now the sequel. And it's just really cute, you know, you're chasing after Jack. You try to tempt him with cookies, and you can actually smell, like, chocolate chip cookies. I think that's really adorable. I love all roller coasters that, like, you know, you start out, and you're, like, instead of doing that whole, like, click, 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 click up the track thing, it shoots you off, and Incredicoaster shoots you off, so it hits that checkbox for me. The lines are never that bad for it, I feel like in spite of it being like such a thrill ride, and I think it's just because like it does have such a height requirement and everything like that. It's got the loop. It's not really one of those things that people go to Disney for, like you were saying. So I like that.
Have you ever ridden the Hulk one at
Yes.
Islands of Adventure? It does that where it starts by like
that
projecting
really
you.
That was actually the first roller coaster like that I ever rode, where it shot you off, because I had not been to California Screaming.
Oh.
Like I said, we went to Florida more when I was younger, so yeah, no, I love the Hulk roller coaster.
There's one like that too. I thought it was at the previous MGM, now Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, the Aerosmith ride.
Yeah.
The Aerosmith ride shoots you off as well.
The loop at Incredicoaster is very cute to look at, like from the pier. It's just a pretty coaster. But
it is very, that whole pier is just such a great photo op.
Yeah, I like riding the Incredicoaster at night when it's not so hot.
Yes, yeah, that helps for sure.
But I like the part you're talking about with the cookies, where like you can smell the Jack cookie num-nums, and but at night you're outside, but then you kind of go into these tunnels, and they light up a lot more at night. I think.
Yeah. No, it's definitely very cute at night. And then like at one point Jack turns to fire, and like you can feel the heat and stuff like that. So that's super cute. Yeah, like I said, I think it really benefited from the reskin.
Had you ever done it when it was California Screamin'?
I did. Yeah, I did.
I've never ridden it before.
I like it better.
I think when we got our, I think the first time we did California Adventure was maybe 2017, either 2017 or 2018, and they had just opened Pixar Pier, so everything was kind of new. So we didn't ever go when it was like Little Mermaid Cove and that kind of stuff. Okay, so my number one is from 1969, The Haunted Mansion. Yeah, The Haunted Mansion for me is so special. It's like the one ride, if I could only do one Disney ride at any park, I would say Disneyland or Disney World. I just think that, like, I had a lot of fears. I still do. But as a child, like, I had a lot of difficulty with sleeping, and I would just get really scared of everything in the shadow and everything ever. And for me, things like The Haunted Mansion or Addams Family or, like, Edward Gorey kind of spooky stuff makes you feel like scary isn't so bad. And I actually think that it was like very like exposure therapy, where it's like a little bit of fear, but in a fun, safe, controlled environment. And it's just like something about the music is so, oh my gosh, like it just hits me. I love that music, the feel, like that gothic kind of feel to it. And I think the decor, like the wallpaper is so beautiful, the aesthetics of it. Like I want to live in that house. I love there's that room where you are looking down at, I guess it's like, I don't know, kind of a ballroom. I'm not sure what that is. There's a big fireplace. It's like the entryway and there's the fireplace. But they have like the paintings on the wall are two men dueling, and then the ghosts appear and they turn and they actually have a duel. Like I love what would you call that? Projections,
hologram.
Yeah, I was gonna say hallucinations. The holograms, of the actual ghosts, and it just like you're not scared of any of them. They're all having a good time. They're having a party. They're having a swinging wake. I love the interactiveness at the end of wondering which hitchhiking ghost is going to be in your doom buggy. I love the puns. I love this. To me is incredible because again, I don't like when they change a ride. But they do every year change it over for Christmas, and they make it Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion, and it's the best crossover. I don't think I'd be as happy if they did it permanently because you can't mess with the original. Right. But because they only do it for October, November, December, it is one that we look forward to all year. And I mean, I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I love Haunted Mansion. So to me, that's like the best crossover, and they do such a good job with it.
Yeah. I think had we done like all Disney rides and not just Disneyland, I would have put Haunted Mansion on there because I really love the Disney World versions. Are just so much fun. I'm less of a fan of the crossover of Nightmare Before Christmas. I think the song is adorable. I love that. But just in general, I really love the traditional one a lot more. Yeah, I do love Haunted Mansion.
Sorry.
Like I said, I would have put it on there.
Your audio broke out for a second. You were saying at Disney World, they have magic bands, and it's like a pass, and it reads your data?
Sort of, yeah. So the magic bands, you can use them for your fast passes there, like just kind of to scan them instead of, using your ticket or your phone. But then also you can use it for like a credit card or your hotel key. So like there's data stored on your magic band, and I think the ride must read them because I don't know how else they would know that we're from Colorado because, like I said, it wouldn't. When we were leaving our doom buggy, the happy haunt that came along with us said, "Colorado, here I come," and it's just adorable.
That's really cute. That makes me think of, did you ever do the E.T. ride at Universal Florida?
Yeah.
At the end, at the beginning, they ask your name, and then at the end, E.T. is like, "Okay, Mary, Catherine, coming with you." Like, he says something, and he says your name. It's really cute. The Disney World one definitely holds my heart. I love that queue a lot. I think it's a little longer. I want to do you know what I read this morning is that I think it was the Tokyo one is not supposed to be haunted because they said that culturally the people have different beliefs about ghosts there, and that like it's not a fun experience for them. So they said that it's supposed to be like a magical house and that everything in the house is like coming alive and interacting, but it's not supposed to be like haunted.
Yeah.
Okay, Kat from the future again. I cut the next 20 minutes out because we literally just went off on our favorite like crossover rides and overlays of doing things seasonally. So skipping that because it's a whole other episode probably. So resuming here. We've done Rise of the Resistance, which I won't talk about since I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It is incredible, but it didn't make my list because we've only done it the one time, and it broke down while we were waiting. So I think it was like a 3-hour process for us before we got on it. But was incredible. And what's your favorite Disney season? Like, what time of year do you like to be at Disney?
I mean, we go every year at Halloween, so that has a place in my heart for sure. I love that it snows around Christmas on Main Street. It's super cute that they make that happen. So I love that. I really enjoy like Epcot and Disney World in the spring because they just go so overboard with all the flowers. It's just so gorgeous. So that's my all-time favorite season. I
think the least crowded time of year is like September to go to any of the parks. So that tended to be one that I liked as a kid because I was like, the crowds are all gone. But I think as an adult now at Disneyland, I do really love when it becomes Halloween. Like the details they do, especially in Cars Land at California Adventure.
Yes, Cars Land is adorable at Halloween. So cute.
I guess because I live in California and there's like no seasons, Christmas time is really special at Disney because you do kind of feel like, I see the Christmas merch and I see the holiday parade and stuff. It does make you feel like the seasons have changed.
Yeah, definitely.
Disney is getting a weird. I'll wrap this up because I know we've talked for a while, but Disney is getting a weird backlash right now with. So for the pandemic, they said we're going to keep charging pass holders if you pay monthly, but when the park reopens, we'll just add dates on. So say that your park pass ended September 1st. If they're closed for 2 months, they would add on 2 months to the end of your park pass. And people got really mad at them that they were still charging people even though it was closed, which I was totally fine with because it's only like, our pass is like $40 a month. Like it's not bad, but also like I'll take more time at the end, especially because I probably would not have gone in March anyways because of spring break. And I'd rather go later. But what they ended up doing was, people got so mad about it, was now they said, we're suspending all the payments. You can decide to just say, my pass was supposed to end in September. I'm going to go ahead and end it in September. So, and they'll just take off the price of the dates when it was closed. Or if you paid up front, they'll like refund some of your money. Or you can say, I want to keep adding on the days that the park was closed at the end of my pass, and I'll just pay later. But it was a weird like backlash, because I thought that was a totally fine solution to just say, we'll add dates on to the end of your pass period.
Everybody's going to be upset about something. You know, you can't please everybody. It's such a weird situation in general, too. I mean, people are still like, why is this shut down? Like, why can't we go? You know, I mean, especially for Disney World, like people will plan these giant trips that are like legitimately once in a lifetime, you know, like it's a big deal. Less so with Disneyland, I feel, but with Disney World, you know, it really can, I don't know. I'm curious to kind of see, like, once the parks do open, if it's going to be like, oh, a flood of visitors all coming to make up for the lost time, or if it's just going to be like, I don't know. I mean, even if the parks reopened, you know, next month, I might, like, wait a little bit, because, I don't know.
I mean, that's, I think that with Disney, you could open tomorrow and literally people would go. Like, people will not stop going to Disney. But I do think tourist attractions in general is going to be down for years to come as far as crowds. What Knott's Berry Farm did was, we have passes for this year. And they said, hey, we are closed right now, but go ahead and have 2021 for free on us as well. So Knott's Berry Farm is just giving you all of 2021. But frankly, Knott's doesn't make their income on ticket sales. I think they make it on their funnel cakes and like the merch you buy while you're there. So it is smart to get people in the park. So I think that was a pretty smart response. But I cannot see Disney being able to do that because of the number of people who go, as well as with as much as they charge.
Yeah,
Disney,
for sure. It's definitely interesting. I feel like, you know, kind of how you talked about in other shows, like the world's not going to be the same even once this is all over. You know, I think that we'll see that in Disney as well. Yeah,
Kim said that she looked it up and she said the only 2 times Disneyland have closed. Disneyland didn't close even when Walt passed away. They closed when JFK was shot and then after the September 11th bombings. But they've never, like, other than, I think Disney World just had, like, some hurricane closure. But that, for me, was, like, where I realized, oh, I need to stay inside and quarantine and take it seriously. Because for Disney to close, like, I know schools closing was a big deal, but for Disney to close, I was like, okay, this is really, really serious. Because Disney is kind of, feels permanent, so.
Yeah, I kind of, I think I started freaking out about all this, like, a little bit earlier than a lot of people I've talked to, because when Shanghai Disney closed, like, I think it was, like, January 24th or something like that, I remember calling my dad, he's 74, you know, he's older, he's retired. I remember calling him and saying, like, hey, Dad, you should stay home more often, like, from now on.
Well, I couldn't believe here when the governor said, hey, you know, we're going to not congregate more than 200 people. That was the initial thing. Now it's no people. But initially when it was like no more than 200, except Disney. And I could not believe they gave an exception to Disneyland. And I was like, wow. And then Disneyland took a day and then they were like, no, we're good. We're closing, which I think is responsible because you got to put people above money.
Yeah, definitely.
But I know Disney's doing okay financially, as well as like everyone's watching Disney Plus. Like they're getting their money in, but it does really make you realize the severity of it to have all the parks be closed at the same time. Oh my gosh, I think you sent me the picture of like the last day when Disney was closing up and they had all their costume characters like waving goodbye to people.
Yeah.
It was so sad. I was like, oh, Winnie the Pooh is like waving goodbye as they shut the gate. And I was just like, God, sad.
I did hear, I think I read like either today or yesterday that I think starting like April 19th, Disney's going to start furloughing cast members, which is very sad.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they were paying their cast members before, but yeah, I think they've now said that they'll pay you through the 19th, and then I think with furlough, you still get like health insurance and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
at least you still get that. But yeah, I don't think they're going to get paid anymore.
I'm furloughed right now, and I don't have my health care through my company, but I think that they said that in their letter, that you keep your health care. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this episode up, but we should do a Disney snacks. Oh, you know what we should do is a rating the top boozy Disney drinks.
Yes. Oh, that'd be a blast. That would be a blast for sure.
Okay, well, I will say thank you for coming on today and nerding out with me about Disney joy.
Yes, anytime. What I'm most looking forward to when things get back to normal. Disney. And food. So Disney snacks is a good option.
We're so sad to not go for our birthdays. My Kim and I have birthdays 3 days apart, and we always talk about like, oh, which restaurant at Disney we want to have our reservation at. And I'm like, I realize that this is not a real problem. Like, it's not like I'm, pregnant right now and afraid of going through that or missing my graduation or prom or something. But still, I miss Disney.
Yeah, no, I understand totally.
Okay, well, Mary, I'll let you have the final meow then.
Meow.